Hi, this is Danielle and Jonathan from Kepperling Preservation Services. We had a busy day today, so we're running in to get in front of the computer for our coffee break. Today we don't have anybody on yet, so if anybody comes on, we'll definitely answer questions and see what any problems that we can help you with. But when I was driving back from my last meeting, I was thinking about stabilizing empty abandoned buildings and also demolition by neglect. Those are kind of two themes that have come through my day for the past couple of days. Yesterday I had gone to record a podcast at Farm Ed in Eastern Lancaster County, and we were standing in the front yard, and she said, look at the three buildings across the street from us. And she said, and the two were early, and she said those were the tenant farmer buildings for the farm that we were standing in, and they were early buildings. They had wood shake roofs, and one really needed to be replaced. Like the shakes, you could tell were, and it even had a hole in the roof, like a literal hole. Like I'm sure that they can stand and see daylight. And she said that there's a landlord that owns both or all three of these properties, and he gets his rent every month, and he doesn't care that he's pretty much demolishing these buildings with neglect. And they're fairly early buildings, probably early 1800s. And we see that a lot. And I know there's probably more protections in some cities with rules for landlords and things, but outside of the cities, the townships have less regulation on rental properties. The other thing that we've encountered probably in the past couple months are buildings that are empty, completely empty. So today I was at a building that was completely empty that they're trying to stabilize and save. It's a very early building in Lebanon County. We looked at a building in Southern Lancaster County a couple months ago, maybe. And it's an early building also, probably early 1800s, late 1700s. It had hand-hewn beams in it. It had never been, the building in Southern Lancaster County had never been updated. It had no kitchen. It had a walk-in fireplace. It had no bathrooms ever at it. And people had lived in it until probably the 50s. Mm-hmm. There were spots where they had put in like coal stoves to heat the house. But the house had never been updated. Everything was as it had been, except now there's squirrels getting in, and there's some damage to some of the windows, probably from kids, because that's what kids do. So, and with that, in the building that I looked at today, which also, there was one opening that the plexiglass that they had put in was empty, and so now there's birds flying in and out, and there's whatever birds do all around, like from building their nest and everything else in this building. And this is a very early building too. There are very simple things that people can do to protect their buildings, protect the buildings that you're at least caring for, even if you don't have the money to restore them. One of them is, get a piece of plexiglass and get the birds out. Get the birds out, put the plexiglass on, clean it out, and then keep animals out. The first thing you want to make sure, keep the water out of the building. Whether it's coming up from the ground, whether it's coming in through the roof, make sure you're keeping the water out. Have all your openings secured. Whether that means maybe temporarily putting plywood over the windows to protect the windows, especially if it's in a place where they could get broken from kids. But doing simple things like that can help. Even if you don't have like the funds to do the entire project, it can help protect the building so that the project is a lot more manageable once you do have the money. Mm-hmm. Are there other things that you can think of to do? Making sure the enclosure. I would think if it's a building that has plumbing stuff, you have to winterize.
Yeah, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it is you could talk to, even if you were going to see how much something costs, negotiate, doing the manual labor. Like a lot of the labor stuff is pretty unskilled.
Right.
So you can,
get volunteers maybe.
You can get volunteers to help. If it's your own personal house, you could you know, maybe negotiate with a contractor, you know, you'll do this if they, and then, but they can do the stuff that they're more skilled at.
Right. Yeah, that's one way to save. And if you're, I think that there is actually a preservation brief for like mothballing buildings, which is pretty much what we're talking about. You know, if you're just going to try and keep it secure and keep it in the same place that it is right now, so that it doesn't get any damage, that's pretty much mothballing a building. I'm pretty sure there's a preservation brief for that. But yeah, to like the people that I met with today, they're older. They don't have a lot of committee members. They used to, but you know, she was telling me, you know, some of them died. You know, the one guy's wife's sick. Like, you know, I was getting the whole stories because it's mostly older people on these committees. And she was like, we can't even, you know, she was thinking she had to get the fire department to come and help her put the plexiglass up. I was thinking all you need is an extension ladder and like a drill. I almost volunteered us to do it.
Yeah, like we're not busy enough.
Right. So, but you know, things like that. And if you talk to the right people who are passionate about preservation, I'm sure they could find a younger person in that area that would be willing, because she even has the piece of plexiglass. She just doesn't have the means to get it up and drilled into the plywood that is there. So, you know, those kind of things, that if you can find people that are willing to help you, I'm sure that, you know, there are solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And owning buildings, just in general, no matter the age of the building, requires maintenance, requires some investment of money, but beyond just paying, you know, the mortgage and the taxes. You know, you have to put money into the building for it to continue to
serve your purpose.
And if you do it little by little, it's a lot easier than having something really bad go wrong and then you have to fix, you know, you have a huge bill. Where if you can do it little by little, you know, you save some money.
And usually having somebody that comes out to know what they're doing to create a plan for you. Mm-hmm. That way they can sit there and go, okay, this is what you need to do. This is your immediate thing. This is this. And then, you know, this should, in like 2 or 3 years, this will happen. In 3 to 4 years, this should be happening. You can at least plan for that type of stuff then.
And it allows you to budget.
And also, houses are meant to live in. And if you're going to use the mothball thing, it can also cause damage to be done because a house needs to be used, or else it even deteriorates a little bit faster just because it's not using its intended purpose, and it causes that problem. So just don't think you're just going to cover it up and boom, it'll stay exactly how it is.
But it definitely, if you take precautions to make sure there's not water getting in and you're keeping animals out. We see animals a lot of times getting in the cornices or in the eaves of the roof, especially in buildings that are occupied, because you don't notice that they're in there, that they're in the attic.
And they don't care because there's nobody there.
Right. So, you know, making sure that you keep those areas secured and tight really helps to ensure that you don't lose any more of the historic fabric, and that you protect what you're trying to stabilize and preserve.
Yep.
Yeah, and demolition by neglect is it's a preservation term, but usually it's used when somebody comes in front of the board, and like a architectural review board, and they want to demolish a building and they haven't taken care of it.
Or what another tactic they do is they want to do something, they're told no. So then they think in the back of their mind, okay, well then fine, I ain't just going to do nothing. I'll just let it fall in on itself.
Yeah.
Well, certain counties like Lancaster, you can't do it. So you got to check the municipality rules. So
it's been codified in Lancaster that demolition by neglect is not a reason to grant a building permit.
And more places are jumping on that and fast.
And just as an aside, I did just see in a preservation group that somebody wanted to demolish a building. They weren't granted the approval. So then, taking on the social justice causes of the day, they decided to say that the original builders held slaves, and therefore they should be able to tear down the building to remove slavery's legacy. And if you read my blog post this week, you would know that I think that we need to confront those legacies rather than trying to remove them from our landscape. So that wouldn't work for me if you were bringing that argument to me.
Yeah, let's completely rewrite history into something that isn't real. And that's
right.
all in itself.
So very good. Well, thank you for joining us for the coffee break this week. We enjoyed it. We enjoy having visitors, but sometimes it's nice for us just to kind of talk about what's on our mind too. See you next week.